Hello there, people of YouTube. As you can see, I am set up in front of my DVD collection. There's more of it than this, but despite that, this is actually the first, hopefully the first, of my of a new series that I'm entitling The Book Report. Please tell me if there's anyone else that already has this series, because I've had a quick look and I couldn't find anyone. I've seen people who have book review videos and all that, but I've not seen anyone actually name a series The Book Report. The reason why I'm in front of my DVD collection and not my books is because, as you may have seen from my vlogs, that I've recently moved into a new place, and the one thing we haven't got room for currently is my books. Please don't have a go at me about any. I'm having a look in my camera now. I don't think any of them are too bad. I don't think so. Everyone will have a different sort of opinion, but these are ones that I like, so I've already said that with my vlogs and everything else, I'm not going to give a particular kind of time frame. Like, it's not going to be every day, every other day, and blah blah blah. I'm going to say exactly the same thing for this series, mainly because I love reading books and I try to read as often as I can, but I think it's kind of understandable, it is secondary to other things that I do, and that often means that it can go a while until I finish another book. It's not for the lack of trying or for the lack of wanting to read, it is just there are obstacles, everyone has it, don't they? The book I'm going to cover in this, the first of the series, is one I've literally just finished, and that is Helter Skelter. It's the book on the Manson Family murders, the murders of Sharon Tate and the LaBiancas. The problem is with this is I don't want to go into too much detail. I'd like to say things that I've taken from whatever I've read, but at the same time I don't want to be a source for spoilers. I also want to say that it's written by that guy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Vincent I don't know if it's Bugliosi or Bugliosi, or I honestly don't know, I apologise. Also written with Kurt Gentry. I have a particular interest in, don't know how to put it, I find myself interested in tragic events. It's a hard way of putting it. When people see that you're reading such material, and if they talk to you about it and you go, oh yeah, I have a real interest in these, they instantly kind of think, okay, so you like mass murder. We're just going to take a few steps back from you. It's not so much that I find it kind of fascinating to learn, I want to say the psychology of it, but I don't know, I get interested in human behaviour, and there are particular events like the Manson Family murders, which I'll admit, before reading the book I didn't know much about. All I knew was there was Charlie Manson. He was supposedly a kind of psychotic cult leader. He surrounded himself by these people that he managed to get onto his side, followers of his, and together they killed people. That was my knowledge of it, and with that I really wanted to learn more. This might seem a bit lame, I'll admit, but my attention was brought to this book in particular via the band Alkaline Trio, whom I'm a particular fan of. No, I'm not wearing the hoodie today. They wrote a song, or they, or at least Matt Skiba, wrote a song called Sadie for their Crimson album. Matt Skiba will often open the song by saying that they wrote it about this person from the Manson family, and it was inspired by the book Helter Skelter. So when the two things kind of crossed of I have this kind of interest and I'd like to learn more, here's someone who's recommending a book. And then I also found out that I'm going to say Bugliosi, I apologise if I'm wrong, Vincent Bugliosi, he was actually the prosecutor for the murder trials. As soon as I learned that it's written by the prosecutor, I got even more of an interest in it. I mean, yes, there is the thing of it could be a biased view, but you also have to take into account that as he was found guilty and has been seen to not really, I don't want to say not in touch with reality, but there's definitely something else going on in his head over the years. It does appear that he would have the best view of it. The book actually is written in kind of a chronological order. It basically is in chronological order of the events that happened. Obviously it steps back to look more closely at the events that did happen and the evidence that's found, but it initially starts with the nights of the Tate and LaBianca murders, and then up until the point where Vincent Bugliosi actually says, I then got assigned to the case. Now, at this point in the book, I still had interest in it, and just by saying that, it sounds like I'm downplaying it, but I did have interest in it, but I wasn't finding myself fascinated. I wasn't disappointed at all. It was just a general kind of rolling with it. But he then states that with the cases in which he's involved, he likes to get hands-on with the investigation, basically. And throughout the book, it actually proves to be so worthwhile for him to have had a hand in it. I'll say a hand in. He was definitely involved, heavily involved in the investigation of trying to find who was behind the murders, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, etc. But as soon as he stated that he was, in the cases that he works on, that he wants to be that kind of hands-on, I found that my interest grew. It peaked more, because I thought, well, that's something I personally haven't really heard much of as far as my own knowledge goes. As an attorney, you take on the evidence that is found. I'm not saying they don't do their own interviews of witnesses and things like that, because I'm sure they do, but I've never really thought of a prosecutor, lawyer, whatever you want to call them. I never really thought of them actually being so hands-on, so I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting take with the book, that it's going to be someone who knows, they are going to know firsthand what they've been doing. I've already stated that I am interested in books like this because I find it fascinating to learn how someone gets to a certain position whereby they do something so horrible. I don't want to make it sound like I'm researching this for use in the future, because no. It's quite fascinating throughout this book. Vincent Bugliosi actually goes through, at a certain point in his investigations, he gets reports on Charles Manson and his life. He had a lot of information regarding his previous arrests, the kind of person he was, but he changed from that to being a peace-loving man, supposedly, and that initially sounds good, but as most people are going to be aware, this all ended up being part of the way Manson programmed his followers. And they were programmed. The proof of this is obviously he can turn to someone and just go, right, get yourself a gun, get yourself a knife, and I want you to go and do this. And it's even to the extent that he may not have actually turned to them and said the exact words, I want you to go to such and such house, kill such and such people. But he could, it's kind of like almost suggesting it. I'm kind of going, trying to tell the whole story here, and I don't want to do that. It's really interesting how Vincent Bugliosi sets the scene and then goes on to him being brought in as the prosecutor, and then through the moments of finding bits of evidence, and you actually, I think the way it draws you in, or at least it drew me in, was the fact that you got to see the case build. It wasn't so much of a thing of saying, here is the case, we are prosecuting Charles Manson, here is the evidence, boom, that's it. It was actually a thing of, right, we've got no evidence, we've got very little evidence, and most of it can't be directly linked to anyone, let alone such people, to little bits and pieces coming out from interviews and things being found. At one point, Vincent himself actually refers to this kind of the way in which the case is built as like a rope. I'm doing things with my hands and you can't see them at all. As like a rope, and each strand that's in there is like a piece of evidence or a piece of information from interviews, etc., that help build the case. So obviously the more strands you have, the stronger the rope. Thus, the more evidence and information you find that shows a particular outcome or points to a particular person or group of people, the stronger your case is. I personally found that as more information was being found and drawn out, that my interest in the situation or the book or the findings grew, because you could see how it was leading them to think in certain ways, or to follow certain leads. One of the most troubling things for Vincent whilst leading up to the trial was things like motive. As a prosecutor, he states that they don't have the burden of having to give a motive. All they have to do is prove what happened, or try their best to prove what happened. But obviously, if you can follow that on with a reason, a motive, then you're going to have more chance of a jury being on your side or believing you further. And the motive for these particular murders, the Tate LaBianca murders, didn't seem to exist. For a long time it appeared as though they were just random. It was a case of, there's a house, we'll kill them. A motive was found, and it's kind of strange. All I'm going to say, because like I said, I don't want to be a spoiler, all I'm going to say is it does relate to the title of the book, Helter Skelter, and it goes to show the kind of mindset, or I don't really want to say psychotic. There's definitely something disturbing about the mindset of Charles Manson. It's hard to say that the motive that is found is actually something that he truly believes, or if it's just something that he used as a reason for his followers to do what they did. I reckon I personally think that they truly believed it, but I don't know whether it went as far as he actually believed it. I have a feeling that he did, and maybe still does. I don't know. It wasn't actually until towards the end of the book that I kind of caught on the way Vincent Bugliosi was writing, that I actually flicked to the front and double checked when the book was written. It was actually written in 1974, so this was only a few years after the trial actually took place, which is actually something else which I feel supports the story, because it would have been a lot more fresh in his mind. He would also still have his notes and everything else, whereas if it was done, say, 30 years later, you could argue that maybe he's forgotten certain things, or he's misinterpreted his notes and such like. But I am inclined to believe that the way Vincent Bugliosi actually tells the story of how everything happened is how it happened, or at least as far as he knows, as far as the evidence shows. Any bit that he actually does state that any bit that he can't personally vouch for, or say it can be interpreted through evidence or interviews, he does always point out and say, this cannot be proven, but one can assume due to this. So it's quite nice that with such a story, I keep saying story, but that makes it sound like it's fake. With such an event that happened, it is good that someone will be upfront and say, we don't know this bit, but we know these bits, and here's why we know these bits, or we can safely assume these things. Of all the elements of the book that kept me reading, like I said, I found it deeply interesting, but was that it wasn't always a case of him just going, this is the horrible and brutal things that happened, stone cold all the way through. You actually find there are some moments of humour. There's nothing humorous about what happened, but there are some bits where it is kind of funny. There are certain conversations that he and Charles Manson actually had, and they are quite humorous. One of the defense attorneys was ridiculous. I don't really want to mispronounce his name, but I read it as Irving Kenerick. So again, if I've mispronounced that, I do apologise. Personally, I find the way in which the story of the events has been written and built throughout this book is perfect. It's kind of the way it needed to be, and it's certainly, as you can tell, I'm sure you can tell throughout this video, I would most certainly recommend for anyone who's interested to read, especially if you don't know, like me, I did not know what was supposed to have happened. If it may be more important for other people to read it if they have personally gone out, say like on the internet or down the library, not finding this book, but even by reading old newspaper articles, for those people to read it, because it is also stated throughout this book that there is a lot of incorrect information out there about the events in the trial, etc. Because of the sensationalism that surrounds news in general, you may find certain bits are less exciting, but overall it is extremely interesting and at moments very disturbing. As I say, I really would recommend it for anyone who's interested in true crime and basically these kind of horrible events, as I seem to be. To give an example, I've also read a book by Dave Cullen on the Columbine events, of which that, again, I would recommend. It is an extremely good book. My recommendation is there. You don't have to take it, it may not be your thing. I'm going to end by telling you what my next book will be, and as I said at the start, I don't know when I will be reporting on it. It may be a long time, it may be in a week's time, I don't know. But it is this. Oh, can you see that? Bitter Blue by Kristen Kashaw. This is her third book from the... I don't know if it's officially known as this, but I'm going to call it the Graceland series. The first one was Graceland, what was the second one? Fire. Now we've got Bitter Blue. So my next video, my next report, whenever it will be based on that. I'll also end by saying, if there are any books that anyone feels that I might be interested in, feel free to recommend. Like I say, I love reading. I don't always have the time for it, hence why there might be gaps in these videos. And if you send a recommendation my way, I'll look into it. If it does look like something that I like, then I will definitely read it, and there'll more than likely be a video about it at some point. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I apologise if this video is long-winded, and I don't apologise if it's not. I'm sure I'll see you guys in my next video, or vlog video, whatever my next video is. Thanks for sticking by if you got this far, and I do hope if any of you do pick it up that you do enjoy it. Do please let me know. I'd like to know if anyone has that kind of like-mindedness to have enjoyed such a book or found it interesting. So yeah, I will catch you again soon. Bye.